there is this, we'll give a little lead up here. This chapter is the Yadu dynasty retires, and Krishna is going to be leaving the earth soon and is of uh, people can feel it in the air. The Uddhava Gita begins right after this. The Uddhava Gita is a very fascinating part of the Bhagavatam and has the story of the wandering Avaduta, and it's Krishna's final instructions to Uddhava before he leaves, kind of like the Bhagavad Gita, but not taking place on a battlefield. Uh, um, once, one second, I'm getting okay, Zoom gave me a pop-up I had to deal with, a new one. Um, and so Krishna leaving is a big deal. In devotional service, we often say service and separation is actually sweeter than service in person. That's a hard one to grasp. I'll give an example. When Prabhupada was with us, we always wanted to be with him. And what would Prabhupada do? One time, Haridayanand Raj was Prabhupada's secretary, and it just basically he didn't have to do anything, just hang out with Prabhupada. And then Prabhupada asked to be his secretary. And then Prabhupada goes, by the way, what are you doing here? He says, well, you asked me to be secretary. He says, why don't you do something useful? Go out and preach. And um, wherever Prabhupada went, we were always anxious to see him. But it's the service and separation that became the most intimate service we could do. And the service and separation from Krishna, it's kind of a build-up to that. The extreme case, of course, is Radha and Krishna's relationship. We'll get to that, and we just finished that in the 10th canto. So this service and separation is a difficult concept because it is the special kind of love where I'm not getting something from it. If I'm with someone, there may be some buzz, there may be some excitement, but when I'm serving in separation, it is service out of love. So that will be some of the topic that's going on in this chapter. We're kind of building up to better understanding service and separation. Why? Because Krishna's about to leave. When I was with Prabhupada within a month of his departing, we were all, many devotees, especially the Prabhupada's senior uh, men and women, were begging him, please, Prabhupada, don't leave us, stay. And it was medically obvious and even spiritually obvious that the time for Prabhupada to leave was coming. But devotees were begging Prabhupada, Prabhupada, what can we do? Stay, stay, stay. And then Prabhupada would utter, okay, let me try to eat something. Because he hardly ate anything. When I walked into Prabhupada's room a month before he left, Prabhupada made a huge joke. We didn't find it so funny. Prabhupada was belly laughing, though he couldn't even sit up in bed. He was so weak. And the joke was this. Treya Rishi and I walked into his room. We just landed and immediately went to Vrindavan from Delhi. And Prabhupada started laughing. And he said to Atreya, look, I've been telling you I'm not this body. And I'm living in my bones, kind of like Hiranyakasipu was. I'm living in my bones. Now you finally understand I'm not this body. And he Prabhupada was just laughing and laughing. And we were shocked because the Prabhupada we knew is the one you see on the Vyasa, the robust of Prabhupada. And here he was skin and bones. And then devotees started praying, but Prabhupada, please just stay with us. And Prabhupada would say, okay, I'll eat something. But of course, his digestion had totally failed. The eating wasn't really possible, but he would try. Devotees would cheer and cheer. What was Prabhupada doing? What was he really doing? He was increasing our love for him. We would beg him to stay, and he said, okay, let me see if I can stay, just to increase our affection, increase our attachment. And that's what's going on here. Krishna's about to leave, but he's giving a lot of instructions and not directly talking about leaving, but setting it up so the devotees afterwards would be able to serve in separation. So I'm trying to give a context to a most interesting part of the Bhagavatam. Um, tell one little side story, we'll go on. Has anybody here heard of Mickey Singer? If so, raise your virtual hand or your physical hand. Anybody heard of him? Anybody else? Nobody. Um, well, that means you're all reading the Bhagavatam. Mickey Singer is a best-selling author. He's on Oprah. He's a yogi, a vegetarian, kind of borderline Mayavadi, and he has a center near ISKCON Alachua. And he's very favorable. He's donated significant sums of money. He made the first software for doctors' offices and became fabulously wealthy. And he's very favorable to devotees. And at the same time, he's, um, let's put it this way, doesn't understand the essence of devotional service, in my opinion. But nice guy. So this was in the 80s. Haridanand Raj was translating the 11th canto, just the next chapter after we are. He just finished translating it. And Mickey came to visit him. And Mickey said, you know, I love the Uddhava Gita. It's my favorite literature. And until to this day, twice a week, 6 in the morning, Mickey reads the Uddhava Gita to, he has a congregation, he reads it to them. And so then Narida Nanraj turns to Mickey. He didn't tell him he had just finished translating it, including all the commentaries and all. He said, oh, would you like to hear the inner story of the Uddhava Gita? And Mickey, who always has something to say, I've never seen him go quiet, sat spellbound for 90 minutes while Maharaj told him this inner story, the inner story, and the most inner story. And he walked away with his head spinning. And the next day, this was in the 80s when computers were just becoming much more popular. And he delivered it. It's one of the first laptops that have come out. And he said, here, Maharaj, here's a present for you. He was so amazed by it. Because this Uddhava Gita part that we're building up to that is a very, very powerful part of the Bhagavatam. And a non-devotee like Mickey loves it. As devotees, you should adore it. So I'm just trying to give a context of what's going on in this part of the Bhagavatam. Now we're going to get to a particular verse, which is 11:6:12. Parchasa tava vibhovana malayam samspardini bhagavati prati patni vachari yasu pranitam amyumaraham adamam no payut sanangriya asubasha dumaketu. Almighty Lord, you are so kind to your servants that you have accepted the withered flower garden that we have placed on your chest. Sometimes that happens where we don't have proper flower garlands. And I remember the old Houston days in the 70s, we were a very poor temple. So the way we would get our flowers for the deities, I'm not kidding, we would go to the wholesale florists early in the morning, 5 in the morning, and we go to their dumpsters because the wholesale florists sell it to the retail. And when they sell it to the retail, they have to have at least 5 days of life left on the flowers. Now, these flowers still had 3 or 4 days, but they couldn't sell it to the retailers. So we would dumpster dive and pull out the flowers. And the one time there were two dumpsters. One time my wife was in the dumpster pulling out flowers, and the garbage truck came, the one that dumps it. And fortunately, it only did the dumpster next to hers, not hers. That would have been the end. So we used to dumpster dive for flowers and wash off the coffee grinds, clean them, and offer them to Krishna. So Krishna does accept our devotion. That was odd, but we were a very poor temple then. What could we do? Prabhupada used to have a saying that devotees totally misunderstood. Still, people misunderstand it. And he used to say, by hook or crook, we should accomplish what we want to do. Does anybody know what hook or crook means? You can unmute and tell me. Somebody know? Take a guess. Come on. Be
Is it
brave.
like how politicians use any means possible to achieve their agenda?
Do you
Or
mean the literal meaning, like where it derives from?
Yeah, well, a hook or crook. What does it actually mean? Yeah, I mean, the little would help understand it. What does it mean?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Narottam Nitai. I was just interrupted you. I think he was saying the same thing, right? It means
yeah,
by any means necessary, even if it's slightly questionable.
Yeah, but as devotees, it doesn't quite. Yeah, it means that, but it doesn't mean crook in the terms of a crook like a thief. It refers to a shepherd's crook. By hook or crook, because shepherds would have a, different tools they would use, and they would take firewood with something called a bill hook or a shepherd's crook, ensuring they got the right wood. So it means doing something in its original sense with determination, and then eventually by any means necessary. But it doesn't mean by being a crook. But when Prabhupada would use the old English expression hook or crook, we thought it meant, hey, we could be crooks for Krishna. That's perfectly fine. We could be thieves. That's not at all what it meant. So one time we're having a festival and they had a beautiful rose garden in Houston, public garden. So we went there, like an acre of roses. We went there at 3 in the morning, clipped every single rose. I mean, we didn't kill any plants. So we could decorate for the festival. The next, of course, this was before there were cams everywhere. And we actually made the newspaper. Who stole every single rose from Houston's famous rose garden? So we were thinking, by hook or by crook, we'll serve the deities. But that's not quite what it meant. So, but all we had were, we couldn't afford to buy flowers. So Krishna says, and we'll get into this in a little bit, you have accepted the withered flower garland placed on your chest since, and since the goddess of fortune makes her abode on your chest, she will undoubtedly become agitated like a jealous co-wife upon seeing our offering also dwelling there. Yet you are so merciful, you neglect your eternal consort Lakshmi and accept our offering as most excellent worship. O merciful Lord, may your lotus feet always act as a blazing fire to consume the inauspicious desires within our hearts. Now, what's going on here? Obviously, the purport will discuss verse 926 of the Gita, Patram Pushpam Palam Toyam. Even one who offers me with leaf, flower, devotion, I will accept it. Now, this was the very beginning of my Krishna conscious sojourn. This was a little hard for me to understand. So I'll tell a little story to give some context to this. Devotees would tell me that it's very necessary to offer my food to Krishna. And by offering the food to Krishna, it becomes purified. But I hadn't quite understood if I knew there was God, but didn't quite match up that Krishna is God. And offering food to a statue, I just couldn't quite understand it. I was still studying it. I'm a pensive person. I have to think about things. So I said to Prabhupada, devotees are asking me to offer my food, but I'm still struggling. Is Krishna God? I mean, I want to be sincere in what I do. And then Prabhupada said something very brilliant to me, very, very brilliant. Somebody want to guess what Prabhupada said? No harm guessing. Any guesses? Okay. Prabhupada said, so if you're, he said, so all food, you recognize everything comes from God? I said, yes. He said, then therefore, before you eat anything, you have to thank God for it. Like grace. He said, you have to at least thank God for it. I said, well, I like that idea. And then Super Soul gave me a little kick. You ever had that where Super Soul gives you a little kick? You don't want to say something and you say it anyway. So that happened. Super Soul gave me a kick. And I said, oh, because, I was in graduate school working with a lot of professionals and all. And I said, oh, just silently to myself. And probably goes, no, say it out loud so other people can know what you're doing. In other words, I had that slight realization that there is God, the slight realization now that I should be thankful. That was obvious. So then Prabhupada was telling me, preach based on my realization. In other words, say it out loud so people know what I'm doing. Even that little realization, preach. So that was Prabhupada's move. Whatever little realization you have, use it as an opportunity. So Lord Krishna, more purport, gratefully and happily accepts even the most meager offering from his loving devotees. Lord Krishna is conquered by the love of his pure devotees, just as a father is easily conquered by the most insignificant offering by his loving child. Unless a transcendentalist completely gives up the impersonal conception of life, he cannot make such a loving offering to the Lord. That's why Mickey, who I like Mickey. I mean, he's very generous, and he's helped out a lot of devotees and done a lot of good things. But because of the impersonalism, he can't get that connection of offering his food to God. The process of meditation upon the super soul within the heart, called dhyana yoga, is not as pleasing to Krishna as devotional service, because in dhyana or meditation, the yogi is trying to satisfy himself and not the Lord by obtaining mystic powers. Similarly, in order to acquire material benefits from the Lord, ordinary people worship God in temples, churches, and mosques. But one who desires actual, keyword actual spiritual perfection, must be enlivened to always chant and hear the glories of the Lord. So, I'm going to skip ahead a little in the purport. There is no possibility that mundane delicacy could appear in the character of the goddess of fortune, who is the transcendental's Lord himself. Therefore, the statements of the demigods are to be understood, this is very important, as humorous words inspired by intense love of God. The demigods enjoy the protection of Lakshmi and ultimately the supreme personality of Godhead. And due to their confidence in their having a relationship and his consort, they feel free to speak in a joking way. So they're not criticizing Lakshmi. They're speaking in a joking way. Now, the theme here, I was recently walking at a shop and they were playing some music from 1980. And I heard the music and it reminded me of the song I knew. And I said, my gosh, that ordinary love song can be so Krishna conscious if we just think of it as Krishna. I'm actually going to play it for you because it's that song gives the theme of what's going on in this verse. Because this verse is saying, let's look for love in the right place. Let's try to find where love is. And it's not in meditation. It's not in good deeds. These are all good steps, according to Gita, on the way to Krishna, but it is in direct devotional service. So I'll play this song. Think of it about Krishna, not as an ordinary love song. And let me see. Okay. Here it goes.
Well, I spent a lifetime looking for you. Single bars and good time lovers were never true. Playing a fool's game, hoping to win, and telling those sweet lies and losing again. I was looking for love in all the wrong places, looking for love in too many faces, searching your eyes, looking for traces of what I'm dreaming of, hoping to find a friend and a lover. I'll bless the day I discover another heart looking for love. And I was alone then.
How, how did that song go?
I was dancing in my pajamas.
And so the song is looking for love in all the wrong places. And then I met my real love. And this is the theme of Bhakti Yoga. We're looking for love in all the wrong places. And there is one place, if we look for love, where our love will not ever be rejected and can be long-term love. And that's the theme that's building up because Krishna is going to be leaving soon. And Krishna now has to get into very, very serious instructions, which begins with Uddhava. Because when Krishna's there, it's pretty easy to love Krishna. But when Krishna's gone, to continue with that love. And the same thing, when Prabhupada was here, it was so easy because Prabhupada was so lovable to be with, so lovable. I mean, we sometimes have this image of a distant Prabhupada, but that wasn't the Prabhupada that anyone was with him for any time knew. Very, very loving. And when Prabhupada left, so many devotees couldn't even stay in the movement anymore because they didn't get the deeper connection Prabhupada was trying to give them. And that's why when Prabhupada left, it became, as the fifth canto predicted, a very chaotic time. So I'm going to stop here. There's some questions in the chat. Let me see what they are. Oh, well, we got More definitions of hook or crook. And is there a question here? My question is: the soul greater than the intellect? Kindly answer. Okay, we'll do that one. Is the soul greater than? Well, there's in the ancient Vedas, in the Upanishads, and again in the Gita is repeated a metaphor. It's one of the most famous metaphors there is. And this answers that question. Famous metaphors in the Vedic tradition. You've probably all seen the picture. I could try to pull it up, but it might take a moment. The body is considered analogous to a chariot. The chariot is pulled by 5 horses, the 5 senses. The mind is the reins that direct the horses go here or there. The driver is the intelligence, and the soul, and the soul is the actual passenger. So yes, the soul is greater than the intelligence. The intelligence is holding on to the reins, the mind, go here or there. If the intelligence lets go of the reins and the reins flap in the wind, then the 5 senses will go in any direction they want. And it's a very frightful position for the soul. If the intelligence is pulling on the reins and the 5 senses are going which way we want, then we're in full control. And this is one of the oldest metaphors given in the Vedic literature, and often repeated because it's so useful and so practical. So that answers the question: is soul greater than the intellectual or the intelligence? And another question comes up: how to get people to stay in Krishna consciousness? One thing to bring them to temple, how do we get them to commit? Well, I'll tell a story, a true story, kind of a sad story. There was one devotee who left the movement for a long time, maybe a decade, 2 decades. He was a fully initiated devotee, and he came back as Bhakta Joe, and he would visit the Sunday feast and go to the morning classes and visit. And he says, "I'm just Joe, I'm a newbie." And finally, a visiting devotee to the temple, he went to a temple very distant from where he had been an initiated devotee. One visiting devotee recognized him. He said, "So-and-so, Das, what are you doing here?" And he goes, "Shh." He goes, "What do you mean, shh?" He says, "Nobody knows I'm an initiated devotee." So why are you doing this? What's going on? He says, "Well, if I'm an initiated devotee and I show up, they'll kind of ignore me. But if they think I'm a new guy, they'll treat me nicely." And sadly, that happens. That was how do we get somebody? By being personal. We're radical personalists. By being interested in people, being concerned about them, helping them, doing whatever just being a servant. If you're a leader, you're a servant leader. So the key to keeping people to commit is being personal. People are not gonna join out of guilt. They're going to join because of relationships. And as they develop trust, then they start saying, I'll tell a Radhanath story I've told before. But Radhanath Swami, he told me this story. In the 80s, I had a college center in Ohio, and Radhanath Swami, working on New Vrindavan, was doing a famous college program. And he went to Kent State University to do cooking classes. That's how he'd get students to come. And when he was doing the cooking classes, Kent State, he was in a devotional garb and have a few assistants with him, and students would come. And they had a very strict policy of no proselytizing in campus buildings. Very, very strict policy then. It's in the 80s. And so some Christians came. and they hid a microphone in their book, and they were trying to get Maharaj preaching so they could throw him off campus. So they would walk up to Maharaj with a book like this and stick the book next to his mouth and say, "What's your philosophy? What do you think?" It was so obvious. It was like, for those who know, it's like the Three Stooges trying to do something. But they would walk up and try to get him to preach. They go, "What's your philosophy?" He'd say, "My philosophy? Well, my philosophy is do not put too much hing and not too much salt, but make sure you have enough ghee in the subject we're making." And that's my philosophy. No, no, but why do you do this? Well, because I want to make a nice meal. And he would not take the bait. And after some time, they stopped coming. Then a miracle happened. The students who were coming sat Maharaj down and said, "You better tell us your philosophy now. We want to know why you're doing what you're doing." And then Maharaj had the epiphany. Students hate proselytizers. He wasn't proselytizing, he was just serving them, teaching them how to make healthy, good meals. And they all had a big feast when they were done, because the feast was cooked ahead of time, and he'd show them how to cook one dish. And he was just serving them. And eventually they came and said, "Why are you so nice? What are you doing?" Then they were sponges for the philosophy, absolute sponges. And so this is called the non-preaching preaching approach, in which we're not proselytizers, we're just becoming their friends. And what did Prabhupada do when he was on Second Avenue? He cooked feasts for everybody, and he did the pots until finally someone went up to Prabhupada's apartment upstairs from Second Avenue and said, "Would you like some help cleaning the pots afterwards?" He goes, "That would be nice." So then they started doing devotional service. Prabhupada never even asked anybody to help do the pots. He was just serving people. So our mood is, how do we get people to commit? We become real servants. We help them, we be there for them. And they want to know why we're so nice. Why? Because we're in the mode of goodness. In the mode of goodness, we're not acting in a fruitive way. We used to have a Sankirtan newsletter that was for Bhakta newsletter. Thank God it no longer exists. And it was, how many bhaktas can you make? Just like, you would distribute a book, small book, you get 1 point, a big book, 5 points. Well, the ultimate goal was to get a Sikha point. And you got 10 points if somebody shaved up and got a Sikha. And the New Orleans temple was always winning this, always. Why? Because there's so many drunks in New Orleans, they could easily get them to join the temple, shave up. They didn't know what the hell they were doing, but they would last. They would leave. But they always won the Bhakta. They'd get more Bhakta points than anyone else, but nobody stuck it out. So that's not the answer. To get people to commit, we have to be committed to being in the mode of goodness. And in the mode of goodness, we're not fruitive. We're there to serve. So the way we get the answer to that question, the best thing we can do is elevate our own consciousness. So let me stop here, see if there are any other questions or comments on this interesting topic today.
Thank you, Bhagavatam Prabhu. Narotam Nitai Prabhu is asking a very intelligent question. How to get people to stay in Krishna consciousness? One thing to bring them to the temple for Sunday feast, but how do we get them to commit?
I kind of just answered that in that the way you get people to do it is to be personal, be a radical personalist. Somebody comes, "Hey, tell me about your life. What's it like? Tell me about you." Sometimes you think, "Oh, why should we have such mundane talks?" In the Bhagavatam, when people greet each other, they say, "How are you? What's life like?" What I regret is, in my conversation with Prabhupada, the first hour was not recorded. Shama Sundar was Prabhupada's secretary, and you couldn't buy blank cassette tapes in India, so they were very valuable. So after the first hour, he started recording. But my first hour with Prabhupada didn't begin with a philosophical inquiry. Who are you? Why are you here? What's going on? What's life like? Where do you live? It was an ordinary conversation. Prabhupada got to know me a little. And he got to know what I knew and what I didn't know. And Prabhupada had the amazing ability. They say that the face is a mirror of the mind. So when we're with Prabhupada, it's like we have an LED screen in our forehead and he can see what we're thinking. I'm not kidding. It's kind of scary. I mean, I do not want an LED screen in my forehead. And right now, my forehead stretches all the way to the back of my neck. So there's quite a bit of LED screen there for to be exposed. So we're glad it's not quite like that. So Henry put the best way to speak to somebody is to listen. There's I'm going to ask you a trick question. What is the opposite of speaking for most people?
Being quiet.
Say again, not for most people, the opposite of speaking. I'll tell you, we would think it would be listening, but the opposite of speaking for most people is waiting to speak. Not really listening. So what's the opposite of speaking? Waiting to speak. I remind people when I do mediations, I say, look at me. And when they look at me, I say, look what I have on my face. God gave me 2 ears and only 1 mouth. Try to remember that. 2 ears, 1 mouth. That's the ratio. So we learn to be listeners. And we learn to listen to people, and people want relationships. Rupa goes, the most important book internally for devotees, in my opinion, is the Upadesh Amrita. In the Upadesh Amrita, it's a book that came out very early in the movement. Prabhupada interrupted his Bhagavatam work and to get the Upadesh Amrita out, because Rupa Goswami gives a guidebook of how to interact with people. It's a brilliant book of psychology and devotion. And in it, Rupa Goswami talks about the 5 kinds of loving relationships to really make people love one another. Give and receive prasadam, reveal one's mind in confidence, listen, like that. These are the instructions of how to be radical personalists. The book is all about being a radical personalist. So that's something I would say. I urge everyone to keep that book always foremost in their mind. It is a most wonderful book. We got 3 minutes left. Is there any other questions or comments? The purpose of my class today, I just want to summarize, is I wanted to build up to the Uddhava Gita. What's going on here? We're getting ready for Krishna's departure, and so we're really building up to increasing our loving relationship. So even when Krishna is not physically present, we can continue, which is the same thing we had to do when Prabhupada was here, when he wasn't physically present. And soon my generation won't be physically present. We're dropping pretty fast, it seems. And then there'll be another generation. So we have to learn to cultivate deeper relationships so we never feel lonely in Krishna consciousness. One of the greatest problems in a society is we think Prabhupada named us International Society for a reason. He did not want lonely people. He wanted us to develop these relationships, because if we're lonely, we'll get depressed. If we're depressed, we're leaving the mode of goodness. Now, that doesn't mean if we're feeling down, we're not, that something's wrong with us. Prabhupada used to go to the pier every week when he was just alone in New York, asking the ticket master, when's the next boat back to India? The ticket master says, you're coming, but you're never taking a boat. Why are you doing that? And Prabhupada is a little lonely. He said, I just want to know there's a boat going back to India. It gives me some solace. So of course, sometimes we're going to feel a little down. We're going to feel different ways. That's natural. But the point is that if we don't cultivate relationships, then we're going to end up stuck down. So we're leading up to that. As we finish this amazing canto, all of us are going to be able to walk away, if we get into it, with a deeper relationship with Krishna, even in his absence. So we'll stop here. I think we're about ready to greet the deities. Thank you very much. It's always a great pleasure being at the Bhakti Center. I hope you all have an extremely blessed day in every regard. Nice to see my friends here. I see my friend Henry and Rita Kishori and Mangi. And this is a rare day. Gail didn't ask a question. She always asks good questions, and others. So I wish you all a most blessed day. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, thank you.
Thank you, Brahmatirtha Prabhu. Dear devotees, darshan time. Thank you for turning on your cameras.
Muरलीधर गौरचंद्र भगवान की जय। श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय। We have our church in one way which contains your devotional service. I bow down at the Lord's feet with great awe and reverence. By His grace, material suffering. and obtain the mercy of Krishna. My only wish is to have my consciousness purified by the words emanating from his lotus mouth. Attachment to his lotus feet is the perfection that fulfills all desires. He opens my darkened eyes and fills my heart with transcendental knowledge. He is my Lord, birth after birth. From him, ecstatic prema emanates. My ignorance is destroyed. Vedic scriptures sing of his character. Our spiritual master is the ocean of mercy, friend of the poor and the Lord of last will. Oh, Master, be merciful to us. Give us the shade of your lotus feet. May your fame be spread all over the free world. We take shelter in your lotus feet. Take our feet down. One chant offer.
Thank you, Janitai Prabhu. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, welcome to the Afterglow. It's a wonderful, wonderful meditation that we are all new devotees. When did you join the movement? Just this morning, I took a shower, brushed my teeth, and I joined the movement. Just this morning. Right, Narottam Nitai Prabhu? Did you join just this morning? Wow. Thank you. Yes, great. Any reflections? Angles of vision?
Yeah, I was just thinking that isn't that basically how Bhima joined the movement, was Radhanath Swami with his cooking on the college campuses. I don't think he's here today, but that's what that was reminding me of. And
Yeah.
really how I feel like our greatest preaching tool is to listen to people and to be kind. And I think when we do that, it's such a rare occurrence now that people actually start to be interested.
That's right. There's no substitute for genuine care and affection for Krishna's pleasure. We treat others nicely because we want to please Krishna. It's pleasing to him. When we cooperate, when we try to uplift one another. Anartam Nitai Prabhu.
Yeah, that's very true. I remember, um, I remember walking in downtown Detroit one day, and I was just chanting to myself because I didn't get a chance to finish my rounds. I was chanting to myself in my car, and when I stopped at a gas station to fill up gas, I was just chanting out loud. But then, like, people started talking to me, like I got the person at the gas station to chant the Maha Mantra once. So I don't know. It's just I don't even know how to like say it. Like I'm actually joining. I'm gonna be living across the Detroit Temple, by this weekend, and I should have a shaved head and everything going really cool really soon. So
Somebody was getting a shika point on you, right?
yeah, it took me a long time, but no more delay. Terrible.
Wonderful. Dear devotees, let's all bless Narottam Nitai Prabhu on this new beginning in his life. Okay, Venu Madhuri has her hand up. Venu Madhuri, check 1, check 2.
Did you call on me?
Yes, your hand is up.
I can't.
Are you pranking us?
Can you hear me? I can't hear you for some reason. Hang on.
Hare Krishna, we love you, Venu Madhuri.
Okay, well I heard the. Oh, there we go. I didn't have my headphones. All right, sorry about that. Yeah, I just wanted to offer my super heartfelt congratulations to Narottam Nitai. I'm very excited to hear your news. Yeah, and my reflection on the class was one thing that Brahmatirtha Prabhu said about how talking about love and separation from Prabhupada, I was just thinking like how intense that must have been. And thinking about, just another example of how completely pure Prabhupada was, because when people love you that much, and he knew how much they loved him, and he even was trying to, as Brahmatirtha Prabhu was saying, was trying to increase his affection for them, from them, but all for the good of the movement. That when people love you like that, you can make them do anything. And you think of how many quote unquote swamis came and manipulated people and for their own self-aggrandizement. I mean, almost all of them in one way or the other in the end were in it for themselves. And Prabhupada he had an army of people who would literally do absolutely anything for him. And he just employed it purely for the movement, purely for Krishna's service. We know this, but it's just when you hear that, when you hear how much they loved him and in separation, it's just inspiring how pure he was. Haribol.
Thank you, Venu Madhuri. Srila Prabhupada said, if you chant here and I'll be chanting there, there's no question of separation. Jai Srila Prabhupada. Okay, Sundari Radha, thank you so much for preparing Sky and Sage to chant Hare Krishna. Karen, Annabelle, Isaiah, please chant Hare Krishna loudly, very loudly. Different meters at the same time, different tunes, no problem. Okay, there they are.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama,
I think I'm out too.
Hare.
Thank you very much. Dear devotees, happy Thursday. Thank you for chanting Hare Krishna, for your association. Krishna Gauda, nice to see you. Hare Krishna, take care. Haribol.